Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story that is just absolutely wild. We're talking a perfect storm of sports, heavy political history, and a totally bizarre, almost cartoonish act of violence right in the middle of a football pitch. Let's travel back to 1970 to look at an event that completely flipped the international game on its head.
Okay, let's dive into this, because honestly, this is not an exaggeration. How on earth did a simple pair of prescription glasses bring the highest levels of international club football to its knees? Well, to figure that out, we have to look at the completely absurd climax of the 1970 Intercontinental Cup. It was between the Dutch side Feyenoord and the Argentine club Estudiantes. A massive, massive international trophy was on the line, but history remembers this match for something entirely different.
I mean, this reads like a playground bully script, right? But this happened at the absolute pinnacle of world football. So picture this. In the second leg, Feyenoord brings on a 22-year-old substitute. His name is Joop van Dale. Within moments, he fires off this brilliant shot and scores the winning goal. But as he's celebrating, the Estudiantes captain, Oscar Malbernet, runs right up and literally snatches van Dale's glasses straight off his face. He hands them over to his teammate, Carlos Pachame, who violently throws them to the ground and just stomps them to pieces. It's breathless, it's chaotic, and it is completely unhinged. So what gives? Why would a professional team react to giving up a goal by attacking a guy's eyewear?
Part 1. The Rise of Anti-Football in Argentina's Dark Era. So to understand why these guys reacted the way they did, we have to zoom out and look at what was happening in Argentina at the time. Football and politics there were deeply linked. Back in the 1940s, Argentina had this golden era of football, and it happened right alongside the rise of Peronism. Historically speaking, Peronism was a powerful force of mass populism. It aimed to unify the working classes, and it frequently used the huge popularity of football to project national pride and social cohesion. But then, in 1955, Juan Perón is overthrown and exiled. The political instability and factionalism that followed directly mirrored the rising violence we started seeing on the pitch. This all really came to a head in 1958 when the Argentina national team suffered a devastating 6-1 loss to Czechoslovakia in the World Cup. The illusion of their total footballing superiority was shattered, and from that, a much darker philosophy began to rise in the 1960s. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark cultural contrast it shows. For decades, Argentine football was defined by La Nuestra, the romantic ideal of the game. It celebrated individual flair, creativity, and the classic underdog story of the boy from the streets rising to glory. But after the failures of the late 50s and all that political turbulence in the 60s, a new, cynical reality took over. La Nuestra was completely tossed out, and anti-football took its place. The romanticism was stripped away, replaced by a brutal, ultra-defensive, win-at-all-costs mentality. Let's formally define what we're talking about here. Anti-football was a highly pragmatic, physical, and deeply cynical style of play. Aesthetics, they didn't matter anymore. Intimidation and violence, that was the name of the game. And absolutely no team weaponized this ruthless philosophy quite like Estudiantes under their coach Oswaldo Zubeldia. In the late 1960s, this club used every dark art in the book, from sneaky gamesmanship to outright brutality, to win 3 successive Copa Libertadores titles. They became the kings of South America. Part 2. Battle for the Cup. The 1970 Intercontinental. So as we shift our narrative to 1970, this brutal South American philosophy is about to violently collide with European football. And look, before a ball was even kicked that year, Europe was already dreading playing Estudiantes. In 1968, they notoriously hounded Manchester United's Nobby Stiles, who, funnily enough, also wore contact lenses. Then in 1969, their matches against AC Milan descended into sheer savagery. Milan players were violently attacked. And get this, one Milan player was actually arrested on spurious charges by Argentine police right as he was leaving the stadium. No way, right? The Italian press literally dubs the match a 90-minute manhunt. There were very real fears in Europe that playing Estudiantes genuinely endangered player safety. But despite all those fears, the tournament went ahead. The first leg kicks off in Argentina on August 26th. Estudiantes, staying completely true to their ruthless efficiency, go up 2-0 in just the first 15 minutes. But Feyenoord, the champions of Europe, possessed this surprising resilience. They didn't just fold. Instead, they fought all the way back to secure a 2-2 draw. This European side was proving they weren't going to be easily intimidated. Which brings us to the second leg in Rotterdam at Feyenoord's home stadium, the Kuip. The atmosphere was incredibly tense. And to really give you a sense of just how dangerous and bizarre it felt, check out this quote from the Dutch commentator calling the game. "Wel ja, catch in the Kuip," which translates to, well, yes, this is catch wrestling in the Kuip. He wasn't even calling a football match anymore. He felt like he was broadcasting a chaotic wrestling brawl.
And honestly, the stats from that night completely back up his frustration. By halftime, there were roughly 20 free kicks called for each team. The game had zero rhythm whatsoever. Estudiantes were deploying some brutal gamesmanship. We're talking constant offside traps, endless time wasting, and players just dramatically faking injuries to kill the clock and frustrate the Dutch. That same commentator perfectly summarized the Argentine side by calling them 11 Stoorzenders, 11 signal jammers, constantly disrupting the broadcast of a beautiful game.
Part 3. Van Dale's strike. The winning goal.
Through all those fouls and all that frustration, Feyenoord makes a fateful substitution that changes absolutely everything. And this brilliantly illustrates the sudden explosive shift in momentum. Joop van Dijk, 22 years old, a goal for Feyenoord. Just 2 minutes after stepping onto the pitch, the young substitute wearing prescription glasses finds the ball at the edge of the penalty area and fires a low, hard shot right into the net. Feyenoord takes the 1-0 lead and the stadium just absolutely erupts.
But here's where things get crazy. Instead of regrouping to try and score an equalizer, Estudiantes responds with pure, unadulterated absurdity. As Van Dijk is celebrating, the Argentine players specifically target his spectacles. Estudiantes captain Malbernat rips them right off his face, hands them to Pachame, and he just crushes them into the turf. Estudiantes later tried to claim that wearing glasses was against the rules, and that's why they did it, but come on. The reality is it was just a petty, violent retaliation against a player who had just bested them.
So the crucial point is, well, actually, a rather hilarious piece of fallout from all this is the number 1100. That is the number of listens a novelty pop song written about this exact incident currently has on Spotify. A Dutch singer released a track literally titled "Where Are Joop van Dijk's Glasses?" It became this massive cultural moment in the Netherlands at the time. Hey, even if its streaming numbers today are a little bit modest.
Part 4. Football Fallout. The Global Impact. Humor aside, though, the consequences of this smashed eyewear were actually monumental, because this totally bizarre spectacle-smashing incident was the ultimate straw that broke the camel's back for world football. The violence had finally reached a breaking point. The very next year, in 1971, the legendary Dutch club Ajax won the European Cup. But when it came time to play in the Intercontinental Cup against another brutal South American side, Nacional of Uruguay, Ajax outright refused. They declined to participate out of genuine fear for their players' safety. They actually had to be replaced by the runners-up, Panathinaikos.
In this boycott, it nearly killed the entire tournament. This was the very first time a European champion simply refused to show up. And if you think about it, if the champions of Europe refuse to play, it completely defeats the entire purpose of crowning a world champion. European clubs were sending a very clear message. They were no longer willing to endure physical assaults and violence just for a piece of silverware. The tournament's legitimacy was fundamentally compromised for years to come, and FIFA was forced to radically rethink how global club competitions were even structured. Let's move to and see how this builds into the legacy we see today. A symbolic pair of smashed glasses now rests in the Feyenoord Club Museum in Rotterdam. Joop van Dijk, who sadly passed away in May 2025 at the age of 77, became immortalized by this wild event. It ties this weird little micro-incident perfectly back into our broader historical narrative. Those glasses are a permanent physical relic of the day anti-football went too far. Which leaves us with this final, lingering thought. Has modern global football truly outgrown this violent, win-at-all-costs mentality? Sure, we have VAR and much stricter refereeing today, but when the stakes are at their absolute highest, does the ghost of anti-football still linger in the modern game? It is definitely a fascinating question to consider the next time you're watching a crucial high-tension match. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the beautiful game.